Hi, everybody. Welcome to this joint workshop on navigating EU circular economy legislation and standards impacting the uh, impacting the supply chain, particularly India. Just a couple of pieces of housekeeping before we start. Uh, Please keep uh, your microphones off or muted, and keep the camera off for bandwidth. Uh, the focus of the session today is around ESPR, labeling and green claims. We will be running a further event looking much more at the waste issues and EPR. Um, uh, this the research for the regulation and standard is based on sort of good practice, research and discussion, but we are not lawyers. So any action that you take as a result of what you hear today is on your own responsibility. So housekeeping over again for those who are joining, please keep muted and cameras off. I'd like to sort of, oh, so please can somebody mute yourself? Sure, yeah, yeah. Uh, and maybe Lillian, could you keep an eye on people attending, and perhaps if they do not mute themselves, please can you mute them, because we can have big interference like we just had. So again, welcome everybody to this workshop. Questions in the chat, please, and we will pick those up in the end. My colleague Lillian will be monitoring that, and we can't guarantee we're going to pick up all the questions, but we will do our best. So I'd like to also thank the partners in the putting this event together, and Rava and her team, and maybe I'll just introduce the program overall, and then Rava, if you wanted to say a couple of words, that'd be great. So I'm Martin Charter from the Centre for Sustainable Design, and we've been working in eco-design and sustainable innovation since 1995 across a whole range of different projects, particularly in the electronics sector in the 2000s, where we worked in India. We're also working in India on projects to do with sports clothing and equipment. And we're part of the Just Fashion project that I'll just mention in a bit. And as part of the project, we've started to sort of recognise the implications of the growing EU policy and standardization and even global standardization happening that's going to impact on the sector. And we've pulled together a series of webinars that are tackling these issues. So after the welcome and introduction, I'll briefly go through the different aspects of the eco-design for sustainable products regulations, and also highlight textile labeling regulation and various green claims activity. We'll then have Karen from Centexbel in Belgium that will give an overview of the circular textiles standardization activity emerging within CEN. But also prior to that, I'll introduce global circular economy standardization that's happening, that's more cross-sector. We'll then have various industry insights from India. Please, everybody, remain muted. Please remain muted, whoever has their not muted. We'll then go into a panel and then have some insights from the Indian perspective, and then we'll end up with some examples of EC research and innovation that's going on, funded by the European Commission in the textile sector, and then we'll finish with a with a Q&A. So, Reva, I don't know if you just wanted to say a few words before we start.
Thank you, Martin. Good morning, good afternoon. Hello, everyone. I am on behalf of the EU India Resource Efficiency and Circular Economy Initiative and GIZ India. It is my pleasure to warmly welcome you all to today's workshop. Martin has already outlined what we are seeking to do, and the workshop is grounded in our shared understanding that successful circular transition will also require strong partnerships, particularly as we navigate the evolving geopolitical context alongside all these complex policy and regulatory developments globally. And we hope that through today's discussion, we will contribute meaningfully to this collective effort and deepen collaborations across region, institutions, and actors. And with that, I will hand it back to you, Martin. And we hope that everybody will find today's workshop both engaging and valuable. Thank you, everyone.
Very much. Again, for those who have just joined, please keep muted and cameras off for bandwidth if possible. And any questions, please put in the chat, and please keep them as clear and concise as possible. We can't guarantee we're going to be able to answer them all, but please go ahead and add any points there. Right, so I'll start and move into things now. So this project, this webinar is being brought to you via the Just Fashion project in collaboration with Reva and her colleagues. And Just Fashion is an EU project focused on circularity and sustainability across the fashion and clothing sector, particularly focused on the needs of SMEs. And within that project, there's a variety of activity happening, you know, from pilot projects to development of an AI tool to assist companies. But our particular role in this project is really monitoring and updating on the standards and regulatory development. So, you know, the background to textiles starting to become more of an issue within the European context is that back in 2015, the European Commission passed the first Circular Economy Action Plan, and you know, and that was followed by the EU Green Deal in 2019 that put forward proposals broadly around a sustainable products initiative that became the Eco-Design for Sustainable Products Regulation, and also a strategic document around circularity and textiles. Again, please can people keep muted because it just interferes with the presentation. What there has also been more recently is the Green Industrial Deal that's been noted, critical raw material that's covering critical raw materials and the Circular Economy Act. But we'll pick this up in the second webinar that we just. Again, please can people keep muted? I'm hearing background noise that's very disturbing to me and other colleagues. Lillian, perhaps you could try and identify who is unmuted and try and mute them if possible. So the Circular Economy Act, the second Circular Economy Act, you know, that was published in 2020, really brought forward this idea of making sustainable products mainstream. And what was particular there was a significant series of actions, but also broadening the legislative scope in terms of sectors from the historical focus, particularly around product policy related issues from electronics, automotive and packaging, to bringing in a number of sectors and particularly textiles. And as those of us who work in, you know, directly or indirectly in the textile sector, we know that sector has not received, you know, or faced these types of European regulations in the past. Also, as part of this, the policy brought in a broadening of the scope of the regulation from the initial focus on energy and energy in the use phase to bring in potential circularity aspects. So, but then in 2022, the Commission published its strategy for sustainable and circular textiles, and that really, it was a non-binding document, but really it set out issues related to the textiles and clothing sector. So really, this was the first strategic document that came out from the Commission, non-binding, but setting the direction back in 2022. So Ecodesign for Sustainable Products Regulation, was adopted in July 2024, and it aims to be based on it was adopted in July 2024, and as I say, it's to make sustainable products the norm, bringing a range of different aspects. Key to the ESPR, it's a framework directive. It doesn't set specific hard product regulation, but it sets the scene for a whole series of vertical elements that may include delegated acts and actual regulation. And what is also significant, and it's a significant piece of regulation, because it also gives the Commission the basis to broaden out regulation potentially across all products and all sectors. So it's a really significant piece of regulation. It also expands on the original so-called Ecodesign Directive that focused on energy-related products and was primarily focused on reducing energy consumption in the use phase. And the Commission have found that regulation across that sector has broadly reduced energy consumption within energy-related products. So they have sort of taken some of the broader elements of that into this regulation. Again, for time, I'm not going to be able to talk through all the slides, but we are recording this and we will share this within the next week or so. So really, the ESPR is the aim. Although it's called the Ecodesign for Sustainable Products Regulation, there really is a very strong focus on circularity within this. Much stronger emphasis on empowering consumers with clear and reliable data and providing harmonized regulations. So as I mentioned, it's building on the Ecodesign Directive focused on energy-related products and bringing in much broader set of potential product requirements that may align with different regulations. There are 6 elements to the ESPR: product-based regulations, potential amendments to the EU Ecolabel, digital product passport, ban on unsold, the destruction of unsold goods, green public procurement, and substances of concern. And I will go through each of those individually now. But prior to that, just to explain the process that's going on, as I mentioned, ESPR is a piece of framework regulation. So in itself, it's a very strategic direction. What it then will do within the product regulations part of this, it would have set out particular product regulations and also multi-annual work plans. So the process is there is a significant investment in preparatory studies at the moment, and they're almost coming to the end of the study on textiles. Within the process, periodically, information is shared by the Commission with something called the Ecodesign Forum, which is a network of experts. And when the regulation, comes into place, the best information we have is some stage, probably mid to end of 2027. There will be 18 months derogation. So the regulation will come into place in European member states in 2028 and 2020, between 28 and 29, if there aren't delays. And given the nature of the sector, there will be many implications for those in the supply chain. So the preparatory studies, I'm not again going to go into detail because the studies are available on the European Commission website, particularly for textiles, which is one of the chosen sectors and the highest priority sector alongside iron and steel at the moment within ESPR, and I'll come back to a little bit on that. There are various products in scope of this and various products outside of scope of this. So those outside of this are technical textiles, PPE, I believe, and actually footwear has been moved as another category. So there's a very detailed approach that the Commission is, is applying in terms of its research into best practice, what's going on in industry, and they've got a series of tasks that they're moving through, and a series of milestone reports that are published openly. They've just completed their third milestone report in December and have held a webinar with 300-400 attendees, which we attended last week, and has published a 500-page report. So there's a lot of information. That information is the sorts of issues that they're thinking about and considering prior to the regulation being set. So that's the 500-page report. There is also usefully a 30-page summary report. So you will be able to find this on the web if you want more information. So key to this is also a working plan that they have published that is running from 2025 to 2030. And again, that sort of sets out the key priorities, and specifics, that the Commission is working on within the time period. Again, there's a series of sort of, strategic issues and goals here. But again, I'll pick those up as we go on because there's a fair amount of information to go through. From a governance point of view, this Eco-Design Forum is quite important, and the information is shared with that group on a periodic basis. The last meeting was held in November, where various information was shared with that group. So this is a group of around about 200 experts from European member states, industry, civil society, and academia. And really, that forum provides a process for expert feedback. In parallel to that, the Commission is also here holding a series of open consultations, where stakeholders are encouraged to provide comments. There are a range of milestones that have been highlighted. And again, I'm not going to go into great detail on this, but a number of these deadlines have already slipped. So particularly the unsold goods legislation has slipped and is down to be published this year, I believe in Q1. And also in relation to digital product passport, and I'll come on to that in a little bit, there's also slippage on registration to the DPP system, which is a very complicated area. So firstly, product regulations. So the ESPR, as I mentioned before, is a significant from a regulatory point of view. So this is, the ESPR framework gives the opportunity to set up delegated acts in different product categories. And within that, previously the focus was purely on energy reduction in the energy-related product sector, but now within ESPR product requirements, there is this opportunity the Commission has to expand out potentially to identify within 16 different requirements for product performance and also expand information requirements. So as I highlighted before, it was previously with the Eco-Design Directive focused on energy-related products, the focus was on reducing energy consumption, but what they have now highlighted is 16 different product performance requirements that they may draw from in relation to particular products. So the likelihood is, that they will draw maybe the core 3-4 product requirements in relation to a product category. So those that the Commission choose to align with the regulation will likely be different dependent on different products. So textiles product requirements will be different from iron and steel, for example. What is being discussed at the moment within textiles seems to be, and this again, as I said right at the beginning of this, I'm not a lawyer, so if any action you take is whatever I say is at your own responsibility. What seems to be discussed at the moment, based on the Commission report last week, is interestingly a slightly change in language, in that they're now talking about robustness potentially rather than durability. They're also talking about recycled content. They're also talking about recyclability. And they're also talking now about energy reduction in manufacturing. But again, this is all part of the discussion they're thinking about at the moment. We've heard previously that repairability is being discussed, but again, that didn't emerge in the report back last week, and maybe they're prioritizing repairability considerations, perhaps in relation to electronic products at the moment. But again, so I guess the key point is that what will come into textiles are likely to be performance requirements more aligned directly to textiles. As I mentioned here, they're consulting and starting preparatory, study horizontal, i.e. across products, on repairability. It's seen that textiles wasn't featured as a priority on that. So key to this is that the Commission did a big evaluation, and effectively textiles and apparel as a sector came out as number one, and that is why it is being focused on as the prime let's say leader for a delegated act and other policy. Iron and steel came out at the top on intermediate products, but in terms of final products, there is it's based on some evaluation, and that's where the focus came. Within their overall focus, they're excluding a number of product categories that I won't go into. Footwear was part of the focus, but seems to be now pulled out into a separate category. So why was textiles chosen? Well, high improvement potential, large market share, major environmental impact throughout the life cycle. So basically, those who will need to be compliant with the regulation are manufacturers, authorized representatives, and importers. So it is those who will be placing the product on the market in Europe that will have responsibility under the regulation, and those that have their own name or trademark on the product. But there are, given the nature of the sector, that significant amounts of clothing, apparel, and fashion is manufactured in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and China. There are significant supply chain implications for this. So the likelihood is, things will be passed back down through the supply chain. So those of you who are in the sector and are reliant on contracts from large European suppliers or are exporting to Europe, I would be suggesting that you start dialogue with your customers soon about this, because many of your customers will already be aware of this, and if you haven't received early indications on this, I would suggest starting early is a good idea. So as I highlighted earlier, there is a number of there just, I think, believed to be one or two tasks left in the preparatory study, and once that is published, that will then the Commission will start to prepare for regulation. It's a bit of a moving feast at the moment. In some places we're seeing Q1 for the passing of the regulation, but in other places it seems that it may be more likely to be Q3 or Q4. But the likelihood is, as at this moment in time, the regulation will be emerging at some stage. I would think realistically Q2, Q3 2027, unless there is major blockages, and therefore with 18 months to transpose the regulations at a member state level, therefore the regulations, as I mentioned earlier, will come into force in 2028, 2029, pending when the legislation is passed. In addition, and really this is sort of, I've tried to extract this out because it is an important point. So there is an EU eco-label, and there is an EU eco-label for textiles, and what the Commission is putting forward is that adherence to a revised EU eco-label will be a fast-track way to show evidence of compliance with mandatory eco-design requirements. So although it's an information requirement, it will have very, very strong links to the product regulations for textiles. Again, I'm just going to move through this. There is a major study going on, and I think there's been a study. There is another study going on where the Commission is reviewing the options about what will go on to the EU label generally, and also for textiles as well. What I don't fully understand is if there will be specific implications for different products. But as I highlighted here, what they're doing in the survey is they are highlighting a series of potential design options for the new eco label, and they're consulting on this. So this one you see on the screen is one of the proposed options for an eco label, and what you can see there is within this concept they're proposing. What's different here is that you've got your sort of energy labeling at the top, but they're now bringing in these product circularity requirements. So as I mentioned before, if and again, this is speculation because I only heard it for the first time, they start to bring in the term robustness rather than durability, there will be, a need to come up with some sort of, measurement aspect or some scalar to sort of measure the robustness of products. So again, there'll be methodologies sitting behind all of these elements. Energy is already, there is already methodologies behind that linked to the eco-design for regulations and energy labeling, but new methodologies will have to be developed for this. So I think the overall, what we can say at the moment is the Commission is looking at very seriously to starting to bring in circularity aspects on labeling, on physical labeling, let alone what it may well be doing in terms of digital product passport. And there we move neatly into digital product passport, which is a very hot potato for any of you who are have engaged in the discussion. So digital product passport is a digital tool to provide comprehensive and transparent information on a product's life cycle. It will be accessible by a unique identifier on a product, QR code, etc. Now, the key thing, particularly, there are many misunderstandings around DPP, but one of the key things is that DPP, whilst it's highlighted the ESPR at a framework level, DPP elements will be aligned specifically to the product categories. So there will be DPP regulations specifically for textiles. There will be DPP requirements specific to other product categories. So again, please can people remain muted? I'm hearing some background noise. Again, effectively, they are a digital means to collect and display information across the life cycle. Again, I'm not going to go through in the detail of this just for time, and these slides will be shared. Already, digital product passport, although it did first emerge in ESPR, we're seeing standalone regulations being discussed in relation to all sorts of product categories. So how those product categories then align with ESPR, if they're separate regulations, is unclear. It seems that the battery regulation is moving the quickest in terms of DPP. So that's, again, if you're particularly interested in that, I would also be watching batteries for any sort of implications. Now, the key point, and if there's one thing to understand here, it's this slide, because there's a lot of misunderstanding about this. So DPP is under the European Commission, will be regulation linked to products. So there will be delegated acts related to DPP in relation to the products. There's two elements to it, the how and the what. The how is the IT aspects for this, the technical IT aspects, in terms of, as it says here, data carriers, unique identifiers, interoperability, data processing, all the technical IT aspects in delivering a sort of, let's call it an information bucket to put information. And what you have is the what element. What content will go into a DPP? Now, in terms of the how part of this, there is significant European standardization going on. That there'll be a series of SEN standards that will be published within the first quarter. The what element has not yet been defined by the Commission. So what goes into the DPP has not yet been defined, and will not be defined until the Commission specifically produce the delegated act on DPP relative to the product, i.e. textiles. So, there is a lot of DPP washing going out there. There are consultant software suppliers claiming that you use their service and that will make you compliant with European DPP. This is incorrect. The regulation has not been passed yet. So I would be very careful with people claiming they have the magic bullet, because they don't. There's a whole process that will happen in terms of registration. There'll be a website, a registry, and a whole structure behind this. And again, I don't propose to go into the details of this. You can follow up on this, later, and we will be sharing the slides. So again, it's really important to distinguish between the how and the what. So the key thing is, if we, as I highlighted, we're trying to monitor the regulations very closely, but you've got different timelines out there in the public domain from the Commission. In terms of the publication of the regulations, we can only think that the DPP for the textiles regulation, will be published after the delegated act on textiles. It just does not make sense that the DPP for textiles would be published prior to the delegated act for the sector. So there's a lot of uncertainty out there, and again, it really strongly, a real strong need to monitor the regulations and what's going on, because even within the Commission documentation and websites, it's unclear. This slide came from SEN and the SEN group working on DPP, and again, they're highlighting that somewhere in 2027, the textiles DPP will be, come into force. And that's sort of more in line with what we're thinking, that prior to that, there will be the delegated act on textiles. So again, all this is pointing towards, 2027. But again, this is an area of high uncertainty, but a lot of people claiming all sorts of things. Excuse me, there are digital solutions that are out there to collecting, circularity data that are being provided, but that is a product that obviously any company can buy into, but that won't make anybody compliant with DPP regulation for textiles. That is the key point. So again, it's worth just keeping an eye on developments. The EC is, as the best information we have, likely to establish this registry now in July this year. So that it will be a key time to keep one's eyes open. What is also important, and I'll pick out a couple of these standards here again, because we've got a lot of information still to go through, and I'm already behind schedule. There has been significant standardization activity starting globally on this, from the CEN-ELEC JCT 24 through to ISO TC 154, to potentially a joint ISO IEC DPP standard, an IE standard, and also China textiles DPP has started. So I'm really just going to pick out the CEN standard and just mention the China standard. The other elements will be in the slides. So effectively, the CEN, the Commission requested CEN to set up, a standardization activity, and that was accepted and moved forward, over the last, in April 2024. So activity happened in 2024. 4 working groups with multiple experts have been working very hard over the last 2 years or so. The only challenge, one of the challenges I see for this is, because it's a CEN-ELEC joint technical committee, the experts working on this are from CEN and CEN-ELEC. They are CEN-ELEC members and experts. So it is the EU member states plus others, including the UK. So there has been multiple requests from supply chain countries to join that, but within the scope of CEN, as my understanding is, there isn't any means to allow the supply chain to engage. Now, for me, that's an issue and a challenge, and something that perhaps CEN-ELEC should be thinking about. But so the people working on this have been European experts, 4 groups, highly technical, 400 experts, 20 member states and others. Essentially, there are 8 standards that are due to come into force, I believe, to be published towards the end of Q1 this year. So I know that a lot of these standards are quite mature in in the consultation process. So there'll be a suite of standards covering the technical elements, the how aspect of DP that will be published over the next few months if they stick to their schedule. Again, I don't propose to go into the other standardization activity that's going on, and anybody that's interested can pick this up from the slides and the video later. What is also interesting, however, is that as China is a major supply chain country, have also set up their own approach and process to look at DPP, and indeed textiles is the first sector that they're focusing on. I don't know if there is activity going on in India on DPP, and we'd be interested to hear if there is, because I do see it as a really significant area. So essentially, other key elements of the Ecodesign for Sustainable Products regulation are a ban on destroying unsold goods. So this idea, particularly at a retailer and other points in European member states, is there's often the destruction of unsold goods, particularly textiles, for a variety of reasons, and this regulation will aim to ban this, and particularly this will be focused on large companies that have been involved in this practice, and there will be requirements, as I understand it, for regulations to come into place next year. I believe there is regulation that is already being circulated at the moment. It's been delayed. So again, for time, I'm not going to go into the details of this, but effectively, there'll be a process where there'll be much bigger restrictions on the destruction of unsold goods. The main implications this will be for large companies, and there will be derogations for medium-sized companies. I'm not quite clear how that will impact on the supply chain. As far as I can sort of see, it may mean that maybe ordering and forecasting become tighter in the supply chain. But main implications, as far as I can see it, will be those who place products on the market, hold stock, and previously may have destroyed stock, but will no longer be able to do that. So green public procurement being discussed a lot in Europe for a long time. This is the idea of developing mandatory green public procurement that will be need to be implemented by member states, that will be aligned to the eco-design requirements, and will be based on life cycle thinking. So as we understand at the moment, this is the green public procurement and the alignment with the different product requirements are still being discussed within the preparatory studies. So again, the sorts of areas where there may be implications are particularly for government offices in Europe, in different member states, that buy perhaps uniforms, workwear, etc., for staff and their employees, and maybe contract with those in the supply chain. So again, there may well be tougher requirements coming through from different member states based on this. Substances of concern. So again, I'm not planning to go into great detail in this because it's complicated and uncertain. And again, we have more information there. There is, more details in what the Commission is thinking about in the preparatory study. But effectively, what they're looking at is substances of concern that may negatively impact on the reuse and recycling of textile products. So this is being reviewed. what are those chemicals or substances of concern, and what the impact may be. This seems to be closely aligned to REACH, that is also going through a revision. So again, it's an area where the Commission is looking at it. They've said they will be producing delegated acts, but the precise implications of this are yet unclear. So there was supposed to be more information on the revision of REACH, but that is likely to be issued in 2026. Again, I'm going to skip through some of these things for time because we're behind time. There is a lot of uncertainties with the ESPR, and there's a real need to try and monitor this. Again, just picking up from the Commission's discussion last week about the introduction of robustness rather than durability as possibly a requirement, adds yet another level of uncertainty. There are many uncertainties about, to what extent, for example, and we're not discussing this today, whether the textiles product circularity, product environmental, the textiles PEV product environmental footprint will be somehow used in relation to the ESPR product regulations. How the different regulations will be aligned, unclear. Many issues still are uncertainty around the rollout of DPP, the alignment of the different standards globally that are now developing. So still a lot of uncertainty and no magic bullet. So many implications with relation to the regulations. So effectively, again, for time, I'm just going to proceed this very quickly. Based on our knowledge and experience, the main consideration is that there will be more circularity requirements starting to flow through the textile supply chain. So if you are in the textile supply chain, starting to understand those sort of implications, the implications of design for recyclability, incorporation of recycled content, increasing the robustness of clothing, and highlighting and extracting data on this may well be a useful thing to start to think about. I mean, it's pretty much the same point across all these elements. That also is not just product circularity or environmental implication of textile products. It's also chemicals use, etc. So in addition to the ESPR 6 elements, there's also a revision to the textile regulation is underway, that new labels are under consideration where more sustainability and circularity information will be required, better care instructions, country of origin, etc. So again, there's separate textile labeling considerations as well as different EU textiles labeling regulations, as well as digital product passport, so that you can it is complicated. These are separate. They don't seem to be coordinated. But again, this is part of this shift in terms of the need for better data on these issues and then the need to communicate it. This is also being tightened by the Empowering Consumers for Green Transition regulation that is currently being transposed, that effectively is going to require within physical labeling, clearer information on things like durability, repairability, banning terms like eco-friendly and green. And so therefore, how one claims environmental benefits is going to be much more closely regulated. We've already started to see, different, stronger, enforcement of this. in different different European countries, and some countries have already been fined. So already we know from Belgium that there is the transposition is in process, and there are different regulators going out to audit retailers in terms of the information on labels. Again, I'm not planning to go through the details of this. The last element on this is a proposal for a green claims directive, very controversial, that was going to potentially require the third-party verification of claims on labelling. This is under a lot of political uncertainty. There was some discussion about it being withdrawn, but then it's been highlighted that it's still in live. But again, very significant uncertainty, but an indication that the Commission is looking at the whole areas. Again, implications for all of this: better data, being clearer in terms of communication. So I'm going to sort of briefly go through the circular economy standardization that's going on before passing on to, Karen, to focus on the textiles developments within SEN. So over the last sort of 5 years or so, there's been a significant increase in standardization activity and circularity. Effectively, ISO TC 323 was set up in 2018, and a suite of standards have already been published across different areas. Within the first three here, on principles, terminology, business models, and circularity, they're now moving into a revision process. So they were published in 2024, and they're now starting to move into a revision process. So these are all guidance standards, so they're not for certification. There are new standardization activity happening around extended producer responsibility, of note, on extended producer responsibility, and also on circular economy management systems. So there are existing standards that are published, some are going into revision, and there are new standards that are being published. The first standard on circular economy, on integrating circular economy into organizations, was published in the UK in 2017, and that is now going into revision because what we're seeing is a national circular economy plan happening. So this is has quite a practical focus. One of the criticisms of some of the ISO standards that based on, or let's say the feedback in user research, is that there wasn't enough practical content, and that's being improved. So, the key element is to provide guidance that companies can use. So, SEN, European Standards, set up under Swedish chairmanship, Circular Economy Technical Committee, and there is a series of working groups working across various topics, mirroring what's going on in ISO, but also starting other activities. So again, other activity going on at a European level, that is important. Importantly, also there was a SEN Elect Technical Committee, JTC 10, on materials efficiency aspects of products, initially focused on the energy-related product sector, but that now has been broadened under ESPR to cover all products, all sectors. Already standards for energy-related products have been published in a lot of product circular areas, for example, repairability and other areas that have been mainly focused on, energy-related products. But again, as I understand it, there is broadening of that going on within that group. Also of note, within the different working groups, they latterly focused on a relatively new working group on circular design that in November 2024 published a standard on how to do circular design at a design and development level. So again, this is quite maybe useful guidance in terms of starting to look at product circularity within the textiles design and development process. It's broad-based, but it is quite practical. I've reviewed it. But again, other guidance that may be useful are existing eco-design standards that have been published for 6 years and gone through various revisions. I know because I was involved in those and I chaired the 14006. So this, so the top one aligns to how to bring in eco-design into design and development processes, and 14006 gives guidance on how to bring this into ISO 14001 and the ISO 9000 within environmental management systems. So there is guidance out there in how to start on this, but it is all there's a lot of activity going on. So sorry I had to move through that quite quickly. I'll now pass across to Karen, and I'll move these forward on a next slide basis.
Thank you very much, Martin, for the introduction. Yes, I would like to present today the work of the CEN Technical Committee for Textiles and Textile Products, the Working Group 39, Circular Economy for Textile Products and the Textile Chain. If you can take the next slide, I think. The working group was established based on an initiative from the Netherlands. Their Mirror Committee introduced this. They had a document, a NEN document, which was published in 2020. And then they decided that to introduce this on the European level. And the new working group was founded following that. So the secretariat of the working group is held by the colleagues from the Netherlands. And the convener, the chair of the working group, is my colleague Edwin Maas from Centexpel in Belgium. He was unfortunately not available today, which is why he asked me to give this presentation. I'm Karen Neufinger, and I'm the manager for standards and technical regulations at Centexpel. Maybe a few words for Centexpel. We're a collective research center for textiles and plastics conversion and related chemistries in Belgium. We also act as a sector operator representing the Belgian national standardization body in CEN and ISO. So if you move on. Just a brief overview of the members of Working Group 39. As you can see, it's mostly European countries and associates. So, for example, Turkey is also a member of the working group. And then, like you can see here on the list, there are several other associations and sometimes additional CEN-TCs that have a liaison with this working group, so that they can follow documents and also give some comments. Next slide, please. There is one document that the working group published in cooperation with ISO. The lead was in ISO TC 38 Working Group 35 Environmental Aspects of Textiles. So it's textile, the name of the document is Textile Environmental Aspects Vocabulary. It basically laid the fundament also for the vocabulary being used in the European Working Group. There have been some documents published which are related to this work. I know CEN-TS from 2015, Textile and Textile Products, Self-Declared Environmental Claims, Use of Terms. This document, I think, has been forgotten a bit. And when I looked at it recently with my colleague, it could probably, the Working Group 39 could consider an update of it. And then there was a CEN workshop agreement initiated by a European Horizon project called TRIC on guidelines for data collection from textile, also related to digital product passports. Next slide, please. So the work program of the CEN working group, current work program, they are first developing some general documents. The one is on the circular economy for textile products. They have actually 4 parts under development. The first one is, of course, general principles and guidance. That document is being finalized for final vote. And the second part is design for circularity, which is under an activation ballot. They started with a preliminary work item, and the next document is categorization of and requirements for non-virgin input material. So kind of the requirements if you would use material already coming from textiles that are being recycled or other recycled materials. What are what would they have to fulfill to be used again for textile products? And then the fourth part is the collecting, handling, sorting, and storing specifications for used textile products and textile waste. So everything that is related to, yes, how to keep textiles in the circular system. Thank you. Next slide, please. Then they're also working on the minimum physical durability requirements. As Martin pointed out, this is part of the work so that the JRC is doing. It's still called durability requirements here, but I heard that maybe we might have to change the name. So the first one is on requirements for clothing. The second is for workwear, and the third is for bed, bath, kitchen, and table textiles. As needed, parts can be added for other categories of textile products. Next, please. Just very brief, how some of the documents, to give an example on some of the documents. The general principles and guidance, this, as we mentioned, the document is under final vote or under finalization for final vote. There is indeed a link with the ISO document that Martin mentioned, ISO 59004 for the vocabulary principles and guidance. And then also the definitions, due to developing this document, they actually also think that the ISO document from the textiles group on environmental aspects will probably need to be updated. So this document uses the general principles and implements them specifically for textiles. You can move on, please. Then another example, the part 2, the design for circularity. Here, basically, the R strategy is being followed as laid down by the Commission and by others. As you can see, the table of contents is reflected, so design is a bit reflected on these R strategy principles. Next slide, please. Just an example how there's case scenarios developed for each R strategy, and here on this slide you can see how it was developed for the strategy refuse. I will not go into detail, as I said, these will be shared. Next, please. Then there's also a large table with opportunity, risks, and practicality applications and analysis made. To a bit reflect on what would one have to be careful with. Next, please. Then an example or a bit more detail on the categorization of and requirements on non-virgin input materials. Here we give the material has been categorized by source and use. Defining end of waste criteria when you're taking in your material. When does it become a resource again? How can this be verified? And then how can this be communicated? dealing also how to deal with certain risks. An example is, of course, certain type of contamination. Then setting requirements on the source. I mean, you want to have a specific, you need certain quality of your material before you can implementing again. That means also the source will have to be reliable in delivering this quality. Also some chain of custody models, and then also some reference formulas for measuring circularity. Next slide, please. And again, here a bit of an example on how this is being implemented in the document, linked also again to the R strategies. So I'm not going to go over this in detail. Thank you. Next slide, please. And then the series on minimum requirements. As mentioned, there's already 3 parts for the moment. The idea is to define physical durability levels for the different categories of products. First important was, of course, to define which textile articles belong to which category. Then the parameters of importance are being identified and linked to existing testing standards. And then a set of requirements and the recommendations for each category will be developed. And then the part 4, collecting, handling, and sorting. This is still just being started, this work. So we reflect here the scope. The scope is to establish some general principles. And you might be wondering, why is storing included? But a lot of times the materials after or in between the different steps are being stored, and you all know that textile products will have to be stored properly to not deteriorate. So that's why it's been included. And then, coming back to linking them also again back to the R strategies. The idea is that you then, following this document, can have the quietest, keep your material at good quality for later processing. A bit the outlook for future work. The documents were all developed as technical specifications for the moment because of time restrictions. This is a very new and quickly evolving area, so that's why they wanted to move forward quickly. So the aim will be to then develop them into full EN. Also, after more information is known from what Martin talked about from the Commission, the new legislation under development that will then also be implemented. Then there is also already an agreement to integrate the documents into as EN ISO, so to bring them to an international level. As you said, working together with ISO TC 38, especially working group 35. ISO TC 38 already agreed on this. They already actually introduced some preliminary work items to symbolize this, but they're waiting for CEN to start their revisions. Then they will actually, the work will actually start. Also, they want to align again with what is being started in ISO TC 38. There are 2 new documents are being started on environmental conscious chemical fibers. One for specifications of recycled chemical fibers and one specification of bio-based chemical fibers. Then, since there's legislation under development, quite often the Commission will then issue a request to CEN and CENELEC, or the European Standardization Organizations, to develop standards. So it could very well be that the revisions of the CEN-TS to EN would be coupled to such a new standardization request to link the documents to the legislation. And yes, additionally, of course, there could be some, they are expecting to link the documents to the new legislation for the textile digital product passport. But yeah, there also we first need more feedback from the Commission. Next slide, please. Yes, that's just the contact information in case you would like to discuss this a bit more in detail. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Karen. Very, very helpful. Again, all very quite complicated. As Karen said, it's a fast evolving area, both on the regulatory side and also the standard side. So again, I will leave this sort of checklist for review after. So we're running about 15 minutes late, just for anybody who's just arrived. Again, we're obviously aware of people's schedules, but what we're now going to do is to sort of move into a series of short presentations, about 8 to 10 minutes. And if people are able to keep to sort of 8 to 10 minutes, that would be great. Then we don't have a major overrun. And what we really now bring forward is the sort of perspective from India and activities within India. And what would be great is if any of the speakers could also highlight any short, maybe one or two key comments in what they've heard in relation to the evolving policy and standardization area that will impact on the textile sector, which will inevitably impact on Indian suppliers. So without further ado, I will pass across to Parvinder Singh, who is the founder and director of the Global Alliance for Textile Sustainability Council in Panipat. And I believe this is a major sort of cluster around textiles recycling. Is Parvinder there? Calling Parvinder? Are you there?
Martin. Yes, Martin.
Okay. Okay, great. I'll move the slides along if you just tell me next slide, and I'll move it along for you.
Right. Thank you.
Over
good
to
afternoon,
you.
everyone. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Parvinder Singh. I represent GATS. GATS is an industry-led not-for-profit working in the circularity domain in India, based out of Panipat. Martin, can you move on to next slide, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So Panipat is an MSME-led cluster. Daily, we are recycling around 3,000 tons of textile waste. Approximately 60% of it is post-consumer textile waste. And apart from being the largest textile recycling cluster in the world, Panipat is also the largest home furnishing textile cluster of the world. So in our alliance, we have more than 125 recyclers, large and small, largest being processing more than 250 tons of textile waste on a daily basis. And what started as a industry to produce cost-effective yarns now has become a circularity powerhouse, which started with the, if you would be able to understand the technical term, the 2 counts, thicker yarns for hand looms. Now Panipat is producing up to 40 counts of yarn, which can be which are being used in all the apparels. The specialty of Panipat is that it's a cluster which is cost effective. When we ask questions why circularity is not scaling up, okay, then first barrier is that cost is not up to the mark. Cost is not equal to the virgin counterpart. But Panipat is, in every application, Panipat's recycled yarns are at least 30% cheaper than the virgin ones. Sorry. So this is the context and background of Panipat. Now, excuse me. What has changed over last 2-3 years? when the world has started to speak about sustainability, circularity, and what will change when these CBAM and WSR, these sort of regulations come in. Earlier, recycling industry was only concerned about how to recycle, what to recycle. Now the brands have started to ask not only recycling, how to integrate those recycled products into their supply chain. Earlier, the waste has to come only the waste suppliers in Europe. Their only worry was to dispatch the shipments. Now their worry is where it is going. Okay. So in one of the subcommittees of WSR, I was part of it. So now the thing is that which countries other than non-OECD countries, they can showcase their commitment, they can showcase their infrastructure that they're ready and they can recycle and integrate these this waste into the finished products. So the thing is, Panipat has historically been a low quality informal market. Now in last 2-3 years, what has changed in 20-30% of the units, that traceability is there from where the waste is coming, footprint is being monitored. I'll give you an example. In our company, Adi Sustainability Solutions, we are probably among the few companies which has an LCA and DPP certified from waste to a finished denim. And we are not asking any premium on it. Yes, acceptability is low in brands, but still, and we have 4-5 spinning mills in Panipat who have complete traceability, complete control, complete transparency over their product cycle. Martin, can you come on to the next slide, please? Yeah. So our cluster being a MSME-led cluster, very informal cluster, anyone who wants to increase this circularity, who wants to increase this traceability, we have to make a business case for them. Okay, investment needs to be put up. Either brands will see it, either philanthropic capital will push all these things. But at the end of the day, the execution, implementation will be at the industries part, small and medium industries. So how we can make this thing a business-centric thing for them. So what we have done, we are mapping our overall cluster's carbon footprint. So how we can take benefits from carbon credits. And we have mapped a preliminary study which is around 100 to 150 crore in Indian rupees per year. Then we have linked all these schemes to. Someone is asking question. I can take it later. So, and we have mapped all these schemes with the financing schemes, with the private partners and not government partners. So in last 2 to 3 years of our operations, now Panipat has 2 units which were traceable, GRS certified. Today we have around 27-28 units which are GRS certified. We are mapping the whole cluster's footprint to make it a formal cluster. 4 units have been LC and DPP certified in last 1 year. And with our this GATS intervention and our collective interventions, for the first time in our central ministry's scheme, circularity is a key area. And when it comes to implementing these regulations, we need to, if any model is there, it's Panipat's model. If anyone, any stakeholder in all of the supply chain, if we need these regulations to be a success, then Panipat will be the first ground where these will be implemented. Next slide, Martin, please. So what we are trying to do in Panipat collectively, okay, that in our various programs, we have been working on a UNIDO JAFET program on decarbonization of the industries, traceability, transparency, and we are also coming up with a model innovation facility where these brands and all these stakeholders can come and see firsthand how the products are being developed and what we can do with our waste. So this is what we are trying to do in Panipat. If any question is there, I'll happy to take it. Martin, I think you're on mute.
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, classic Teams error. So we'll be taking questions at the end, but I'm sure Parvinder will be happy to answer direct if there's something direct in the chat. So anyway, thank you very much indeed, Parvinder. Very, very interesting, and to hear particularly the scale of the operation there, which I imagine is huge. And with a lot of challenges. So, okay, we'll now pass across to Naresh, who I think is going to who is going to give a presentation verbally.
Okay, can I share my slide?
You've got slides, have you? Okay, we were asking for slides before for the deck. I'm concerned that it's going to. Well, if you can do it, and then okay, go ahead.
It's visible.
Yeah, you just need to. Yeah, fine. No problem. Go ahead.
So first of all, thank you, Martin and entire team. Good evening to everyone. So I'll be representing my company as well as RECIC, where we are working on textile and apparel sector. I'm basically doing that. So not to talk too much about the company, we are India's largest brand and retail company with the portfolio of brand across all that price point, segment, etc. So I'm sure everyone know about these brand. We started sustainability little early, 2012. Now we are focusing more on that product base, how we have that product life cycle thinking approach, and how we can take from process efficiency to product lead activity. This is a journey which we have been doing. I think it's more than a decade where we have been driving, at least in Indian textile and apparel sector. We are trying hard to make it as a business case, and how it's not what Parminder also said, it's not cost center. It's basically enabling that new way of business model. Now, coming to that, particularly on circularity, what we have done, because this required industry level collaboration, where we need to have end-to-end solution and ecosystem. We did the public-private partnership project with GIZ, circular textile and apparel in India, where we were looking at how this can be more as a systematic way of from linear to circular. Is it really business case, industry to adopt? What is the role of all that stakeholder, whether it is mid or small or big size or large corporate, brand, manufacturer, raw material, etc. And I think that project was very, very successful. We were not able to get all stakeholder into that. We did that. It was 3.5 year project where we were able to get all stakeholder across India and industry. We even engage people. What are the innovative way where we can take because small project is happening, but what is the good case for scalability? How to show it as an example where more adoption and scalability come into picture. We launch innovation challenge. We finalized 3 projects which we successfully piloted in our brand. Capacity building across all stakeholder, particularly MSME and a small company was one of the how, because not everyone know what is circularity. So how to get all that stakeholder, whether it is orientation, even we conducted master class. 420 people was trained on circularity. 20 different industry stakeholder was involved as a working group. And culmination of all that was that circular business guideline, which was released in BharatTax. Almost 300 stakeholder was engaged. It was shared with 5,000 people. Even end of that manifesto was released during BharatTax with the Ministry of Textile and GIZ together. Now coming on that, because this is that something which require a lot of industry level ecosystem and infrastructure. So how we get this more into that as a process or as a systematic thing? During that India G20 presidency, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, they launched that RECIC, is Resource Efficiency Circular Economy Industry Coalition. 40 company was part of that founding circle. We are one of them. And now it is reached to that good level. Basically, in this idea was that how we get all collaboration, partnership across all that stakeholder to make it case for whole value chain, infrastructure, capacity building, and how it can be taken to that policy advocacy level. More principle was partnership for impact, technology cooperation, and the finance for scale. This is that background when it was launched G20, 15-member steering committee is there. Today, 59-member is there. I'm part of that steering committee. There is 5 working group, packaging, material transition in chemical sector, circularity in used oil. We started circularity in textile and apparel, where Aditya Birla Fashion is taking lead. And then last is that dry cell battery working group. Overall, that this is that whole industry you will find across India, Asia, Europe. Now talking about that in particular circularity in textile and apparel sector, which I am chairing in that RECIC. Here we have that brand, we have manufacturer, we have MSME sector, we have recycler, we have academia, NIFT and IIT, we have Ministry of Textile, we have on that learning of GIZ project, what we did, GIG is there, UNEP is there, how we get all that fragmented work which is happening into more systematic. And in that we are saying our focus area will be business pilot, how it is more scalable, how tech can demonstrate and enable more acceleration and scalability, capacity building, and then linking it to that PM Mitra Park. Can PM Mitra Park has that cluster scale implementation for circularity and recycling. And in that we have made that approach and roadmap. I'm happy to share that we have that last month, very good round table where more or less every industry stakeholder was there. Almost 45 people was there, and everyone is keen to participate, partner and collaborate. And we have taken in that theme, how we'll do that basically engaging more industry participation, policy advocacy and engagement. Phase 2 focus is more on that small project, but taking it to more transition to how we get it to more scalable solution, keeping in mind Indian context and relevance, where supply chain is still very fragmented. Lot of MSME who is still need to come on ways to make it more, whether it is sorting, segregation, collection, reverse logistic, and then bringing back into that closed loop circle, knowledge partner, practice building. I think these are the things which we are thinking to now take it forward for that subgroup. One of the subgroup is which is more consumer and brand related issue. How we get Indian specific issue address through relevant solution. Then raw material design and supply chain for circularity, something which is unique and scalable in context of our Indian textile sector. Then India, that whole ecosystem for infrastructure, collection, segregation, recycling, looking into that reverse logistic, getting back into that closed loop PM Mitra Park. I think these are the three sub theme which we have taken. How we get each theme by strong leadership, which look into that practical solution, which get into that articulation, what is required in terms of industry challenge, investment, even that government side policy advocacy, and then whatever the success come, how we make that best practice compendium and take that success story to spread and to take more and more scalability from 2 PM Mitra Park to 6 or 7 PM Mitra Park. So that is that overall about that RECIC, what we are planning. It's just starting, and we are thinking that when in next couple of week and month, we will have more and more engagement with RECIC, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and Ministry of Textile, GIZ, UNEP, etc. And when WCF, World Circular
Excellent.
Economy happen, how we
Thank-
get that business case of India. So that
Yeah,
is overall.
Thank you very much, Naresh. That was an excellent overview. I mean, it would be. It's interesting, maybe just very, very briefly, because we're behind time a little bit. How do you see the European regulations impacting on, the evolving European regulations impacting on you? You discussed there about a lot of great initiatives going on in India to raise awareness. And I suppose one of the things I realized when you're presenting, and also Pavinder was presenting, if you're raising awareness about all these issues, you're actually potentially better prepared for any circularity aspects that might start to flow more through the supply chain. So in terms of the design and tackling specifications from brands, and also yourselves perhaps as exporters to Europe, I don't know enough about your business. Do you see these European regulations that are coming down the line as a big challenge, or something that is you can tackle?
No, I think that I would have mixed opinion on that. Some of that big organization who are already prepared and ready for it, they will able to mitigate, but mid-size, small will have challenge. Especially that eco design, that concept in India is still new, so people need to understand it more. Not much more knowledge and awareness available on CSRD, especially when I talk about that MSME and mid-sized company. I think still more capability building and awareness is required. Big player like us and others, I think they are ready, because all that digital product passport, traceability, being part of that global value chain. I think that for last 2-3 years, people are trying. So I would say that 50% people who are more in well prepared and well organized, they are ready for it and they will be able to mitigate. But balance 50%, I think they need to have more hand holding. They need to have simple understanding on that, because still, if I talk about DPP or if I talk about eco design, I think it is still preliminary stage for these people, especially MSME and mid-sized company. So maybe that little bit more work is required, more capacity building is required. And I would say not exactly same way what it is already in public domain in CSRD or DPP, maybe more customized and more simplified version for these kind of small scale.
100%, and I think that's also a very similar point in the European dimension. Yeah, particularly the SMEs, and they've never faced regulations like this before. They don't even know the terminology. So this idea of simple but not simplistic tools and processes is basic, rings very true with our 30 years of sort of working around these issues. So thank you very much, Naresh.
Just to add, Martin, one more point.
Yeah.
In RECIC, I think in a steering committee yesterday we were talking, do we need to have one subcommittee and group in that for eco design and CSRD specific, so that we understand it, we simplify it, we see relevance for Indian market, domestic market as well as export market. So I think little bit more simplification is required. Hence, we are planning to have that subcommittee on that eco level and eco designing part.
Okay, sounds like a very practical and sensible initiative. There should be similar things also going on in Europe, because for most of those micro SMEs, these will be new topics. They won't have thought about these issues.
And we will be happy to collaborate with you.
Okay,
I think we can learn a lot from you, but we can simplify it what is required for India.
Maybe we're happy to generally and through Reva, and maybe I'll send you a LinkedIn request. Anyway, thank you very much. I know we could carry on talking, but we've got a couple of other people to bring in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Naresh. And Sudhir, did you have any comments?
Good afternoon, Martin. I am here.
Hi there.
Yeah, it's really a privilege to be here and all that listening. And Dr. Tyagi, he mentioned about the RECIC initiative that was launched during the G20 presidency of the India. And it was not the only initiative. There were a couple of other initiatives, and that were all, clubbed under the Green Development Pact. You can say something like Green Deal for kind of, and that included too many elements, and say renewable energy, and say what all we want to do on the RECIC, plastic pollution, reducing waste generation, applying waste hierarchies and things like that. So, coming to the textile part, that I come from the background of the government side, and from the think tank, that's called the, Niti Aayog, and that is the think tank for the government side, yeah. And there, we introduced a kind of couple of EPRs for sectors like end of life of vehicles, plastics, e-waste, and all that. So that was the beginning around 4-5 years back, that we tried to explore what circularity and how it will be, ramping up and really bringing the paradigm shift in the way these things are looked. So the product level issues that are coming up through the DPP and the, product level information, and the kind of, not only the information and how really the product performs, and what kind of ingredients are going into kind of circularity and the compositions and things. So these are definitely multiple building blocks coming together, and where as you rightly mentioned, the alignment of the different regulations. So I will be briefly touching only on two parts, kind of regulations and the kind of, the issues that might be faced by the industry. So at the, say, highest, at the bird eye view, at the highest level, all Indian corporates, highest by market capitalization, around 1,000 companies, they have been mandated to report on the sustainability, all these measures, what we call the business BRSR framework. So this is that they have to do it, but this is not a mandatory for the other MSMEs or mid-sized companies. So so, recently there was some kind of industry level consultation by the M4E. M4E and the another federation, they carried out one consultation, and the 4 elements that were highlighted in that consultation, it's something that, unless the board level governance that rightly prioritize these issues. So first level, governance within the units at the company level for the mid size, that would be very important. Another is the setting up the framework for transparency, accountability, and credibility through the governance framework. Another is the kind of tool and policy alignment. Say there are regulations, but those has to be translated into the tools and the workable documents and the whatever reporting or measurement or standards. So those all kinds of tools and and here the roles of the capacity building, that very huge. And as Dr. Tyagi said, that it might be all right to catch up or say to align their align to the requirements of the export markets or domestic markets, but definitely it will be I think quite challenging for that. And another important point that was reflected, like audit fatigue. So for MSMEs, mid-scale companies, how many requirements are, I think, multiple, whether this is the product footprint or whether the circularity embedded into the products, or say like you showed the 4 elements, that kind of eco design, uh, you know and all these how and what part. So this is equally important for India also, like these regulations, what are the how parts and what are the what parts. And we have to also, like you desire to know we are doing something similar to China or not. That's not at the present under kind of discussion, or I don't know, miss, if this will be taken up at some point of time. But here in our REC-IC, we are trying to build up a kind of consultative forum where we can rightly flag the things, we can prioritize the things, and we can lay out certain roadmap for the for the industry. That's all the objective is. And definitely anything, the themes and initiatives that advances the resource, say resource efficiency or circularity, they are of our interest areas, and we would be happy to work with all kind of think tanks or the impact assessments or the kind of the roadmaps that can be aligned with the say MSMEs, and those are areas of our interest. Yeah, thank you, Martin, and thank you, team.
Thank you very much, Sudhir. And Reva, I will try and bring the slide back up again. I hope I can do that. Can you see that?
Yes, Martin, thank you. This is
Right.
still yes, it's on.
Yeah.
Thanks, Martin. So I mean, we also have our partners here. I mean, already Naresh and Sudhir have talked about the coalition and the work that is going on in India. And I would like to now bring attention to the work that is being done under the EU-India Resource Efficiency and Circular Economy Initiative, which is part of the EU-India larger partnership on resource efficiency and circular economy. If you could go to the next slide, please. So this initiative is funded by the EU and the German Federal Ministry for the Environment, Climate Action, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety, BMUKN. And in India, we work jointly with Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and it is being implemented by GIZ. We go on until September 2026. So, and we have been working in the last years on policies, looking at how the implementation of national and state level local REC policies can be done. And a good part of that implementation, of course, is looking at sustainable value chains and business models, as well as working on partnerships and collaboration amongst EU and India actors, and also actors within India as well. And our initiative focuses largely on textiles, plastics, electronic waste, including batteries. Next slide, please. Like I mentioned earlier, the initiative is actually part of a larger partnership between EU and India, where in a joint declaration that was signed in July 2020 underpinned several areas for cooperation over the next years. We also have the EU-India summit coming up in the next week, and we will also hear more about what comes out of the EU-India summit now. And circular economy, from what we know, will remain an important area of cooperation between EU and India. Next slide. For textiles, our overall approach is also very integrated. We are looking at also how the measures at cluster level can be supported, and if there is also potential for strengthening the supply chains with the city level as well. So if at the cluster level, there are the companies that are also utilizing textile waste are able also to absorb the textile waste emerging out of cities. We know that it is tough because of the quality of the textile waste. However, we are trying to also understand to what extent this can be integrated and what kind of business models that will need to come up for having this integrated approach. And we also look at skilling and partnerships as important elements to supporting the cluster and city work. At national level, we are preparing a study for understanding how circular economy transition can be fostered in the Indian textile sector, and the study will also have recommendations for policymakers to see what kind of elements are now needed to speed the transition. As you have already heard from the industry stakeholders, there's already a lot of groundwork in India that is being done by different actors, and we would like to also bring in all of those elements and reflections into the study. At state level, we are active in the state of Tamil Nadu, and we are assessing 5 key clusters and 6 cities, and also implementing 2 pilots to undertake this cluster City Connect. One of our pilots is already active in the urban local body of Tambram, and these are also pilots where we are working with a gender transformative approach. Given how majority of workforce in India, and I think globally as well, is actually women in the sector, whether it is at the level of manufacturing or working for sorting and managing the end-of-life textiles. Next slide, please. Coming to partnerships, we have 2 key partnerships that are ongoing in the project. We already heard a lot on what Resource Efficiency and Circular Economy Industry Coalition is undertaking, and we signed an MOU with the FICCI, which is the secretariat of the coalition, last year. And we are working together with the coalition to also support the coalition's work, and coalition will also work with us to understand what kind of measures will be needed to be implemented at the cluster level by the industries, or also what measures can be supported at the city level. Especially, we see a lot of need for in the area of sorting and segregation of textile at the end of life, especially in the post-consumer section, but also in the pre-consumer section, we see that there is also need for more work and development. One of our other partners is also IDH, with whom we also signed an MOU last year in December, and through them we are also working with the Restart Alliance. The Restart Alliance is actually working to make sure that a good portion and volume of recycled fiber is integrated into production, and so that more fiber can be recovered by sourcing, tracing, and advanced recycling in the country. So those are two key partners for working in the textile sector. However, we also interact and work closely with other partners and industry associations, including GATS and also Tirupur Exports Association and many others, to have a more integrated approach and to also work as an ecosystem enabler in this space. Next slide, please. One of the areas where we saw a great need was also to understand what kind of best available techniques are currently present in the country. In the state of Gujarat, in India, there is a document that has already been launched, and now the Central Pollution Control Board of India has also developed a national best study document. It is under the process of review and hopefully will get released. And in these best available techniques that were identified in the document, we also had a very intensive training and capacity building program with industries in Tamil Nadu, especially in the clusters where we see also good approach to ZLDs, and to understand what kind of opportunities did they see and also what kind of challenges do they foresee. Tamil Nadu also remains a very important state because it houses many clusters that export to different markets in the world, including the EU. So they're also preparing to adapt to the new regulatory landscape. Of course, many of them are keeping an eye on how digital product passport requirements will come up, and have already started some pilots and data collection in that regard. Of course, like you said, unless the requirements are clear, we don't also know how best the industries can prepare. But in Tamil Nadu, we have also heard that many industries are also already preparing for this. And so this transfer of know-how for the BREF process also sought to understand some of the ongoing work and initiatives by the clusters in Tamil Nadu. Next slide, please. Like I said earlier, we are also working with local actors, especially women-led businesses. And here we showcase one of the innovative actions that we have taken with Wasted 360 Solutions, who then launched this three-wheeler that goes around and also collects the textile waste, as well as also ties into a thrift shop. It is doing very well. It is entirely managed by women and run by women entrepreneurs, and it's a very inclusive model. We supported it for a while, but now it's running on its own, and this is one of the good examples of partnerships wherein we can, different partners can come together to see what kind of business models can be. Another learning that we have from this model, and also that we know from other actors across India, is that for managing textile waste, post-consumer textile waste in our cities, we will also need to look at models within those cities. Some may work, some may not work in all contexts. So there is also a lot of movement internally in India in that regard. What percentage of that fiber really makes it into the production processes is yet to be seen, because as Parvinder here would know even better, that there are many challenges with utilizing post-consumer textile waste emerging from Indian cities. Therefore, we are also trying to see what can work and what can be channelized through different measures. So this is what we have been undertaking last years. It's a snapshot. We've also developed some toolkits to train stakeholders in the country, and it's in the next slide. Right. So we have this textile toolkit that is available on our website. And we also have prepared a textile toolkit that looks at circular opportunities for textile MSMEs. This is also targeted at MSMEs that are also in the recycling space. It covers a lot of developments in the EU and also includes many tools. Right now, it is not for circulation, but we have undertaken peer reviews and also pilot trainings with this toolkit to understand its usefulness. Something that Naresh ji has also already touched upon, the stitching the circle, the circularity guidelines that had come out of an ABFRL and GIZ partnership project, and a reuse guide also came out of a similar project that was with Concordia and Purify, and they also looked at what models work at the level of sorting facilities. And many of these resources are also publicly available, and one toolkit is also available on our project website, eu-rei.com. And there will be many more toolkits, especially also on EU legislation that we have developed for the textile sector, as well as for plastics and electronics. Those toolkits will also be made available to the stakeholders in India. Yeah, so looking forward to any other information that the group seeks here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Reva. Have I got my microphone on? Yes, I have, sorry. Thank you very much. And well, last but no means least, we'll pass across to Martin. If you're there, Martin, to give a bit of an overview of some of the R&D and innovation elements that are happening in related to textiles within European funded projects that might be interested to the participants. So, Martin, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much, Martin, for the kind invitation to this workshop. And thanks for the very interesting presentations from all the speakers before me. So my name is Martin Ippolitar. I'm at the European Commission in DG Research and Innovation, and our unit is one of the several units within the Commission, which is writing the topics for the Horizon Europe funding program. And as part of our programming, we are focusing on different value chains. Among those, we have obviously also textiles, for the obvious reasons that were presented here today by many of you. And I just want to show you a little bit on what we have been, what kind of topics, which topics we've been funding over the last work programs, and what is actually ahead of us, because there is a work program 26-27 about to be launched very soon. That might be interesting for some of you to potentially apply in certain consortia, because the calls are usually open to not only European countries, of course, but also to associated countries, to Horizon Europe. So you will see potentially some topics that might be of interest to you. So if we can move to the next slide, I think, or the next one even. Just a very quick fly through to show you what we actually, where the funding actually went in the past in the textiles value chain. So in 2024 work program, we had two topics that were specifically dedicated to circular solutions for textile value chains. One of the topics was through innovative sorting, recycling, and design for recycling. And we had about 3 projects that came out of that call that are actually, all of them by now have started in 2025. You see those details on the slide as well. You can also look them up on the European Commission, on the Horizon Europe website. So you can search for projects by name or by the acronym. And to look up the details of those projects and what are they actually working on. So this was about developing new, basically, technologies for this integration of textile products and for sorting and recycling especially, and to move the technologies from higher up the technology readiness level closer to the market of what is already there. If we move to the next slide, there's the other topic that was dedicated to circular value chains or circular solutions for textile value chains. And this topic was focused on the extended producer responsibility, which was also discussed here as well today. now we have 2 projects that are running and actually developing some first deliverables in there. And the objective here is to actually bring the value chains or specific value chains within the textile sector together, and to actually develop and test ways of how EPR schemes can be deployed in a way that it supports all the recycle, all the circularity strategies, not only recycling, of course, but especially reuse and repair practices and involving local communities, etc., etc. So this topic is a very, very interesting and important one. We can go to the next slide. I believe that's going to be the work program 25. So this is basically last year's work program, which was very focused and short. There we had 3 topics dedicated to textiles in a certain way, not exclusively, but first topic of those was on improving eco-design of products and developing testing methods for products that are prioritized under the eco-design regulation. And you might know that there's quite a long list of priority products under the eco-design. And we have selected several of them, which you can see on the right side, the yellow box, and the product groups that are in scope or that were in scope of this call. And among the products and the product groups, we had home and interior textiles, but also footwear, which is a very big part of the let's say of the textiles universe, let's say, or the products within the textile sector. And here, this was a very technical topic, so I'm not going to spend too much time, but basically this was more for research institutes and technical institutes to develop testing methods to actually verify compliance with the future requirements that will be put on within the eco-design regulation, especially through the upcoming delegated act, which is specific legal act, which is going to specify requirements for textiles apparel, and that is now ongoing. And you probably have heard about this in the morning in the first part of this meeting today. So if you move to the next topic, the next topic was about product environmental footprint. So this is another angle to sustainability of products, and obviously also very relevant for textiles. Here we were looking into developing basically PEF assessments on specific products within certain product categories, and you can see that as part of the product groups that we selected, we had also home and interior textiles in there, not apparel, but home and interior, which is a different category. Nevertheless, very much relevant. So this is also a rather technical and specific topic, but very, very much important. Then we move to the next last topic under the work program 2025, and this was again linked to the EPR, to the extended producer responsibility schemes, but it's not exactly the same as the topic that I presented in the work program 2024, because it is focusing on different product categories. Because as you know, we are going to roll out in Europe, in the EU, EPR schemes, most likely also in other product groups, not only those that are currently in the scope of the waste framework directive. And here we wanted to stimulate research into developing and testing EPR schemes in areas such as ICT, furniture, and mattresses and carpets. That's a very specific type of products as well, and those are also today very difficult to recycle. There's a lot of problems with circularity of those, so they deserve also a lot of attention there. Therefore, we have this topic on mattresses and carpets. Okay, now I will move to the last part of my slides, which is probably the most interesting for you, and that is the upcoming work program 2026-27 under Horizon Europe Cluster 6. And why is it interesting and important is because actually this week, already this week on Thursday and Friday, we have the so-called info days, meaning information days, whereby each topic is going to be very shortly presented by the topic drafter, by the commission officer, As I mean, you can already read the topics in the work program, which has been already pre-published on the Commission website. But the objective of the Info Days is for the applicants and potential participants and applicants for the funding to ask questions and ask for clarifications of the topics. So if there's anything unclear, you can put your questions forward, ask whether your idea is in compliance with the requirements or not, etc. So there are 3 or 4, I think 4 topics that are have textiles in scope, and the first of them is called Advancing Recycling Technologies for Mixed Post-Consumer Textile Waste from Blended Products. This topic we put into the work program because we know, and this has been also shown today here, we know that there are already solutions for let's say monomaterial products like 100% cotton or 100% polyester or other types of materials. There are already some solutions on the market or being in the testing phases or different levels of TRL. But where the big issue is still today, and not only in Europe but globally, is the blended product. So the mixes of basically polycotton most of the time, and there we still are lacking viable solutions that can be scaled and that can tackle this material in a certain way. So this topic is targeting blended products and post-consumer textiles especially. Next topic, second one under the work program, which is going to be also presented on Thursday during the Info Days, is called Demonstrating and Deploying Innovative Collection, Sorting for Reuse and Repair Systems for Textiles at city or regional level. This is an action or a topic which is focusing not at the end of life, but it's focusing at specifically repair of clothes. So it's looking into the higher our strategies of circularity. It's focused at developing and testing, validating solutions for reuse repair at local level. So engaging local operators, local enterprises. Also, the idea is to encourage basically uptake of or upgrade, I would say, of this, as was mentioned today, unofficial collecting and repairing schemes, and to moving them up to the official ones, because there's a huge potential which we know needs to be put forward. Local businesses in involvement, social enterprises, and also preparing for reuse solutions. So there are many different angles to look into it. And it's also targeting the eco design of new garments and new apparel and new textiles as well. That's the second topic. Third one, which is on the next slide, is more about capacity building for extending product life cycles through repair and refurbishment. So this is a little bit similar to the previous topics, but the difference is that it's not going to be it's going to be in the calls next year in 2027. So it's not going to be open this year 26, but only next year, as you can see in the code of the topic. So it's kind of a follow-up of the previous one, so to say. But again, it's focused on repair and refurbishment practices, but not only on textiles. So it's larger in terms of scope of products, because we also have electronics there as one of the priority product groups, including household appliances, but we have also textiles and footwear in there. So another opportunity to work on this one. This is also looking into developing new business models and new ways, basically, of making products repairable and refurbishable. How to say? I don't know if that word exists actually, but yeah, to move these practices forward and not focusing so much at the end of pipe and the recycling, but more higher at the ERR strategies. And I will conclude slowly with the last topic, and that is specifically dedicated to footwear, which might also be interesting. I'm not really sure if there are stakeholders interested in that, but footwear is often or sometimes overlooked to the detriment to the textiles apparel, which is the biggest chunk, of course, but footwear is also a big part. This topic is about innovative circular solutions for end-of-life footwear through collection, sorting, and recycling. So again, very similar to what we had in the past for textiles, developing new technologies, testing them, deploying them in terms of how to collect, how to sort, separate, and recycle post-consumer footwear waste. And that obviously there's plenty of different types of materials involved. So this topic is very much clearly targeting this product group, including new methods, new business models, and new solutions for circularity of footwear. I think that probably should be my last slide. Yes, indeed. So if you have any questions, please let me know or send them to me through Martin. I'm going to have to leave very soon, unfortunately, but if there are any pertinent questions, please go ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Martin. And good to hear all that activity going on. And we're also aware of, and I always pronounce it wrong, the EcoSysTex network that is doing a great job in monitoring all the previous and current R&D activities. And I think at last count, I've got the figure wrong, but it's over 50. It's quite a large number of projects around circularity and textile. Sorry, my voice is almost going with the end of my cold. So, Lilian, did we have any sort of questions, key questions, or maybe we could sort of, as we're down to sort of about 30 people here, we can even, if people got some sort of direct questions, we could ask. But maybe we kick off. And sorry, obviously we are running a little bit late because of all the detail and the information. So if everybody people have to leave, they have to leave. But Lilian, maybe if there is anything sort of that stands out, or a couple of points that stand out to you, maybe you could sort of highlight that.
So there aren't that many questions, but there's one from Dr. Feja Lesniewska, I think. So where do you see the proposed EU Circular Economy Act fitting in a relationship alignment or regarding alignment challenges for ESPR framework?
So that's the Circular Economy Act, which, yes, again, we weren't focusing on today. And we will be bringing this into the next webinar we're holding on waste. It's unclear at the moment, I think. I think that, as I understand it, and again, this is my personal understanding, it appears that the Commission is committed to develop the Circular Economy Act, and it's much more around the recycling of materials, keeping value within Europe, and also potentially strengthening some of the EPR aspects. And there are also elements linked to the amendment with the waste framework. The name is escaping at the moment. The waste shipment directive that has been tightened up, that was mentioned earlier. So we haven't seen yet any clarification in terms of the Circular Economy Act and ESPR at the moment. And it's sort of part of the challenge is there's so much regulatory development that's happening, and sometimes the links are not clear from outside. So that's the answer to that, at least from my side. I don't know if did we have any other comments or?
So a question directly for Parvinder. When you say traceability, can you share what is the entry level of supply chain? So this was for Parvinder, I think the first speaker.
Parvinder, are you still here? I think Parvinder has had to go, obviously, to another meeting or something.
Sure. No further questions.
Okay.
on the chat.
So again, if anybody has any, short, succinct questions, please put your hand up. Or if we don't hear anything in the next minute or so, we'll finish up because there's a lot of information there. As I mentioned, we will be collaborating with RAVER on a follow-up event around the waste elements, the Waste Framework Directive amendments, the new EPR coming in, etc., etc. Was that just a question coming in, Lillian, from someone?
Yeah, so the person that posed the question to Parvinder, I would like the answer to Parvinder's question, if you please.
Yeah, sorry, he's not. We can't answer it because he's not here. So I would suggest that you maybe try and follow up with him directly. I'm sure there are ways to contact him through his organization. Right. So unless I hear any final, I see any hands go up or hear any questions, I think we've, so I think it'd be great. I don't know, Raver, if you wanted to have any final comments, so we can sort of finish up, and any thoughts?
Thanks, Martin. I think we have had a lot to digest in the workshop today, and I hope that it is of use to also the Indian suppliers. And I'm sure we will also get a lot of emails to share the PPTs, and there's going to be continuing interest in the developments in EU, especially from the exporters in India. So I think this is very timely, and thank you for also sharing all the work that is also happening in the forum and how it is currently being discussed at EU and the studies that have come out. And Parvinder just shared his email ID for the questions to be sent to him. I think he rejoined or something, and
Yeah. So the person who asked the question, quick, over the next 2 minutes, please write down his email. So from my side, I think again, even though we're trying to track this and follow this, there is a lot of information. It's a lot of complexity out there. A lot of this regulation is not joined up. It's very challenging, even if you're trying to follow it. And I think for companies, how you sort of boil this down into the sort of key actions you need to take is a key challenge. I also heard from Dr. Tyagi that a number of the large companies are aware of these issues, but when you get down to the micro and SMEs, there are probably a lot of challenges even with just some of the terminology, and new topics like eco-design are something maybe that can be built on. I think the cluster is clearly a huge level of experience, of knowledge, actually, of doing that and running that. That is something maybe that actually Europe might actually learn from. I saw a similar thing in the electronic sector with huge electronics recycling facilities in China. So it's sort of there's a big cluster of textiles in India, and in electronics, it's similar things in China. One thing I just wanted to sort of check, Martin, if you're still there, is can Indian companies join consortium in any form? Because again, with the recycling knowledge across the recycling value chain, there might be some sort of useful knowledge and information. So can Indian companies join, or research institutions join Horizon bids?
Yes, is the answer. very shortly, because India is an associated country to Horizon Europe. So countries Indian companies, Indian stakeholders, so to say, are eligible to form or be part of consortia. Obviously, they need to comply with the requirements that there needs to be a certain number of partners, of course, and European partners, but they can be part of a consortia for sure. So that's very important to mention here.
Yeah. So can they lead as well as partner?
That's a very good question. I'm not 100% sure. I would have to check that. I'm happy to do so because I would like to know as well. Because I think I haven't seen yet a consortium proposal with a associated country leading, but it might be possible because UK has a similar status, I would say, right? So it should be in theory possible, but let me check and then come back to you.
Yeah, no, I'm sure we can then circulate that out when we get the recording out. So that would be, very, very definitely very useful. So I think hopefully our colleague has now copied down Parvinder's email and who can follow up directly with Parvinder. And I'd just like to thank all the speakers and everybody that's attended for an excellent webinar, and look forward to the recording. And at some stage, probably realistically in the second quarter, I think, Reva, we might look at this follow-up webinar around the waste and the EPR side of things. So again, thank you all and have a good rest of the day or evening in whatever part of the world you're in. So thank you very much and see you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you. Thanks, Reva. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thanks all the other speakers and delegates. So thank you. Bye. Bye. Bye.